Welcome back to another edition of History in Your Own Backyard. I'm Danielle, and today we'll be learning all about Lunken Airport. We'll be talking to Mr. Charlie Piles, the curator of the Cincinnati Aviation Heritage Society. We'll also be talking with Miss Jenny O'Donnell, a longtime member of the Linwood Community Council. Come on, let me teach you all about it. Hi, Charlie. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to talk with us.
Well, you're certainly welcome.
Thank you. So we are at Lunken Airport, and can you tell me when Lunken Airport was built?
Lunken Airport was actually began back in about 1922, and it was known as Turkey Bottoms in those days.
Okay.
And the name Lunken came along several years later. In 1930, it was dedicated as Lunken Airport.
Okay.
With the Lunken name on it.
Nice.
But up until that time.
Okay. And where did the Lunken name come from?
It came from the family Lunkenheimer, who owned the Lunkenheimer Valve Company in Cincinnati, and who had shortened their name just to Lunken, taking the Heimer off. And there's a long story about that. You don't want to, you don't want to go into that one. But at any rate, the elder Lunkenheimer was the one who had the money because he owned a company. His son was the one who liked airplanes and wanted to see an airport here. So he encouraged his dad to provide the money to buy this land, about 204 acres, and which he did. And then he donated it to the city with the express thing that it will be called Lunken Airport after that time. So that's what they that's how it was named Lunken Airport. Okay.
And can you tell me about some of the architecture here at Lunken Airport?
Well, the architecture was, of course, 1935, 1937, and as they, I'm not too much on architecture, but because I know airplanes and not architecture. But at any rate, all these buildings were built back in the 30s, and of course, in 1937, before this building was complete. The 1937 flood took place, and where we're sitting right now, we'd have needed snorkeling equipment.
Oh, man.
Because we'd have been underwater.
Yeah. And so can you tell me, through the years, have there been any important people who've come through Lunken Airport?
Well, most notably, I guess you'd say Howard Hughes. But you know, a lot of the presidents, vice presidents over the years, the Beatles arrived here at this airport. You know, Marilyn Monroe's been here, and a lot of the movie stars come in and out of here. Jimmy Buffett, every year he lands here, and when he does his thing at Riverbend, flies his own airplane in here, as a matter of fact.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so can you tell us about some of the other great historical facts about Lunken Airport?
Historical wise, back in 1943, 44, 45, there was an Army unit here. They were based down at the end of Airport Road down here, and they had their own barracks, which I don't know exactly which year it burned down, but it has burned down since. There are two hangars down there that look like they're World War I hangars, and Mr. E.P. Lunken, he told everybody that these hangars were Lafayette Escadrille hangars that were brought over from France. He was a good liar. And he knew he was lying the whole time. The airplanes, those two hangars were pulled down here from Blue Ash Airport, which was known as Grizzard Field at that time.
And so one other thing, I've always heard that a nickname for Lunken Airport is Sunken Lunken. Where did that come from?
Well, Sunken Lunken. And it's just because of the 37 flood and the fact that it has flooded a couple times since, but not quite as bad. And people just call it Sunken because it sits down here in this valley.
Oh, okay.
So
all right, well, Charlie, thank you so much for talking with us today. We really appreciate it.
You're certainly welcome.
And in keeping with talking about Lunken Airport, we are now joined by Miss Jenny O'Donnell, who is a Linwood Community Council member, as well as a longtime resident of this area, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Well, thanks so much for joining us today to teach us a little bit more about Lunken Airport. So I know that one of the things that you are really passionate about is the Art Deco that's here. Can you talk to us about that?
Sure. Cincinnati has such a great art heritage, and when we think about why this airport is important to the city, not only is it important because it really is the place that the corporate users can run their businesses in and out of here conveniently, but it has such a major impact on our art, the history of our city and the arts.
Yeah.
And the Art Deco features in this airport are so striking, and when you see them, you really, it calls you to look for more. You want to know, and it's subtle, but it's here, and it's in the railings, it's in the emblems on the walls and on the ceilings, it's in the lines across the front of the building as you see the stacks of brickwork that's used. I think Charlie mentioned the bands, the decorative bands around the blanking on the word, the hangars out back. Those three hangars are symbolic to the history of the airport, but also the architecture that was used at the time to create this airport.
Okay.
Even the murals that are on the walls tell us, as you look at them, how important this airport was to Cincinnati history and still is to Cincinnati history.
And so why should this airport be preserved?
For me, the most important reason is that it was integral to making Cincinnati a big city. And I know a lot of times we struggle with being a small city, big city, but we are the home of several corporate headquarters.
Yes, we are.
And there's no mistaking the correlation between the fact that when you have a corporate-friendly airport, you have corporate users, you support your corporate community. Ironically, Linwood and East End and Columbia-Yusculum have grown up around this airport. This airport, therefore, has had to be careful about living within the walls of the city, but still being useful. And it's been able to do that because it's still accommodating the corporate users and like Ultimate Air and the shuttle services like that. The architecture, though, to me, that's what keeps this really relevant to the city's history and why it needs to be preserved.
So tell us a little bit more in addition to the Art Deco. What else do you just love about the architecture here?
I think when you start to look around, you look at the Airmen's Museum, the Airmen's Club, and you start to, it pulls people in. I know that there was a military, it's like a junior ROTC kind of thing, where young men used to come here and train to watch for invasions. And there's still there's very active groups that are interested in flying and flight. That history is still here. I think that that's important to continue to seed the next generation of flyers and airport mechanics and airplane mechanics, things like that.
Okay, absolutely. And is there anything else that you want to share with us about the airport?
You know, one of the smart things that I think the city has done is the city owns this property, but the Lunkenheimer family gave it to the city with some pretty strict restrictions about what it could be used for. And the city has, in their wisdom, has incorporated a lot of athletic endeavors and things like that around it to make it more multi-useful. So any given day you can come out here, there's a 5-mile running track, there's people with bikes and strollers and dogs and running, you know, all that stuff. There's the golf course, there's the play field. I think that allows the residents of Cincinnati to own this airport as much as the corporate users, and I think that's really important to keep it viable.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all of that information. We really appreciate you talking with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again for tuning in to today's edition of History in Your Own Backyard. I hope you enjoyed learning all about Lunken Airport. We spent time talking with Mr. Charlie Piles and Miss Jenny O'Donnell. Remember, travel slowly and stop often. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.